Good afternoon. Welcome to the Great Westminster live stream.
Hi.
Hi. With me, Becky Danese, and...
With me, Becky Danese.
Constant Kochkin, thank you. I hope you are all very safe and well. It looks like quite a few of you are going to be quite interested in today's live stream. We've got some very interesting ideas, projects. Constantine is multitasking and preparing some shots for us because I couldn't get the computer to cooperate and do what I wanted it to do. Surprise, surprise. If you've not been to one of our live streams before, welcome. And hello to all you regular viewers from everywhere, all over the world. I'm very, very happy to have you all here. I always get a weather report at the beginning, so I know what the weather's like from, Basingstoke and Illinois. California, yeah, smoking, literally. I've seen some pictures of that. If you are a newcomer and you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do press the subscribe button. It is down here, I'm told. And the little bell icon. If you press the bell icon, you will be told when we go live. We broadcast pretty much every Friday afternoon at the same time, and then also our videos that we upload throughout the week. We did, well, it was me really, but you were there. We did a Z5 video.
Oh yes.
Last week, unboxing and kind of like a mini review.
I know. How much fun was that?
That was great. And what else have we got on the video front?
We have Z50 blogging kit in a pipeline.
That's right.
That's coming out next week, I think.
I think the plan is to upload the Z50 vlogger kit, I think, before Friday, so
yes.
Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on how quickly I can approve the footage. It was great fun pretending to be a vlogger.
The next one up is Good, Bad and Ugly, and we're going to leave it at that, and you'll find out what is there.
What the rest is. It's part of our little series that we were doing on buying secondhand kit. And then you've just managed to get
a Loney of 24 to 200 lens Z series.
So we're going to do a 24 to 200 video. Con is at some point soon.
It's in my possession. There's going to be a lot of pictures of squirrels, local ones.
All the local wildlife, badgers, foxes, and maybe the neighbour's cat as well. Mm-hmm.
And the neighbours.
And
why not?
A few people are saying inspiration like autumn colours and stuff like that. Yeah, for those, so a lot of you who were with us during lockdown, you will remember that I was trying to find things to get us to do little projects and stuff like that. And I thought it's been a while since we've done that. Thank you, Terry, for your contribution to the coffee fund, or in this case, cheesecake.
Ooh.
Yes, I think I will take you up on that. Thank you very much.
Cheesecake.
Did I put Marilyn?
It's not on my face. Hold on.
I know.
Let me just
I moved it.
Here we go.
I moved it. Okay, brilliant. So, yes, you can contribute to the coffee/cheesecake fund by pressing the super chat icon, which is a $sign down there. Or if you're not watching live, you can do it using the PayPal.
Yeah, we still get the money.
I went a bit northern then. PayPal me link, which is below. So let's proceed, shall we? While you're uploading those photos. So, as some of you will remember, during lockdown, we did various different live streams. I did some on things like infrared photography and astrophotography, and some of the stuff I'd never done before either. And it kind of got me a little bit out of my comfort zone. Thank you very much, Ian, for your contribution. Yeah, and Andy remembers the video 3 or 4 months ago about purchasing manual lenses. So I was really trying to give people as many different resources as possible to take pictures from the comfort of their own home. But perhaps we have exhausted our normal sources of inspiration.
That's right. No more streams. That's it. That's the last one.
That wasn't the purpose of me saying that at all. But I do find that sometimes if I'm taking the same pictures of the same stuff...
Hold on, but it was good while it lasted.
It was good while it lasted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I do find that if I'm going for the same walks or I'm taking the same kit out, sometimes I will just get a bit bored.
I know, it gets boring sometimes.
It does.
You see the same thing.
Yeah,
then...
the same, I mean, I never get tired of seeing like the deer and the local ducks and swans and stuff like that.
But you see me and I see you.
That's right, we get bored of that very quickly. So we thought we would give you a few ideas of projects that you can do and different ways of thinking about photography in order to kind of revamp your photography and your art a little bit.
Yeah, how do we get the creative juices flowing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, I mean, the first obvious one is projects.
Yes.
I'm not really one for doing a photography project unless I have a specific live stream in mind or video or article. Sometimes I will just throw myself completely into the next Nikon owner article I'm going to do. For example, I just finished one on infrared photography, which should be in the next issue 70 or 71, I can't remember, but anyway, so I just did infrared photography non-stop for a few weeks, and that was kind of my project.
So now you see everything in black and white?
That's it, yeah, and in infrared. But if I now wanted to do something else, I might want to set myself a project for that. So we thought that we would talk about that. A few years back, the old 365 project was quite a popular thing. I remember
one a day.
One picture a day, every single day for a year. And I remember a few people saying like, oh, well, I can't, trade in my camera right now, or I can't send it off for a servicing because I'm doing my 365 project and I have to stick with it. And I thought that sort of level of discipline was quite admirable, really, to be able to take a picture every day.
So it's not for me.
No, it's not for you. Too much hard work. Yeah. But you could potentially variate that a little bit by doing a 52 project. So one shot a week.
Or one a month.
Yes, one a month would be a 12 project, sorry.
Or one a quarter.
Well, I think that one a quarter is probably for the super lazy, but it depends. If you were using a plate camera, for example, then maybe you would want to do one a quarter.
Yeah, sometimes you want to go about quality and let's say quantity. So even, let's say, one a day makes you think which shot you want to use.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to shoot with a camera. Let's say you can shoot with your iPhone even. But sometimes, let's say if you want... No, I know. We're not going to see those images. But then once you, let's say, go for one a week, then you can start to work a little bit more on that. So maybe you're going to use lighting for this setup.
Yeah.
Or you may invite someone to photograph, or you're going to do specific, let's say, setting, etc. So you can, instead of being spontaneous and shooting one a day, you can maybe organize it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly, and actually set your sights on a project. I mean, from the experience of doing a live stream, so at the beginning we were doing one every day, and then we went down to twice a week during proper lockdown.
Yeah, and if you want to do a streaming project, you can all ask Becky about it.
Ask me all about it, and I will tell you all the horrors of trying to go live and all the things you shouldn't do. But it was certainly, it has been quite a discipline to create content every week, as a lot of you have noticed and have also commented on. And thank you for all of your kind emails when you say that you've been enjoying the streams, and for sending me your ideas as well, because, I might run out of stuff to talk about.
That's right. Sometimes we need to get our creative juices flowing.
Exactly. Now, I have an interesting anecdote, I would say, about a 365 project, because I remember a few years back, Jim Brandenburg set himself a very special 365 project where, rather than, taking a picture a day and choosing that picture to post and kind of forcing himself to take pictures every day, Jim, as you may or may not know, lives in a beautiful part of North American countryside. It's like a cabin in the woods, quite literally. And he had to actually force himself, as part of this project, to only take one picture a day. So he would go out for his daily walk and he would literally choose one picture. Once he'd taken that shot, he'd have to go back home again. Even if another opportunity came up later, which might have been better than the first one. And I'm pretty sure that he released it. If he didn't release it in a book, he certainly released it on his website. It's worth having a look. I mean, it's worth having a look at Jim Brandenburg's website anyway, because it's just, the pictures are amazing. But that, I thought that's quite a nice discipline, It's like, okay, I'm going to just take one picture, and once I've got that one picture, that's it. I go home, I pack up, and then start it all again the next day. So if you have the ability to do something like that, that might be a fun spin on the 365 project. For us film photographers, you can leave now. For us film photographers, I thought perhaps, shooting a roll of film a month, for example, if you're not very prolific, or even a week if you wanted to. And that's a whole roll. It can be, I find, quite challenging to get through a whole roll in one sitting, for example.
Yeah, and you can learn how to develop it yourself.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
That's next level.
So just think about developing your own roll film.
I will do that one day. I think I need to.
Then you're going to care about your negatives a lot more, I think. It's like your baby.
I might do. A number of people have said to me, why haven't you developed your own stuff yet? I'm like, because I shoot colour. That's why.
Yeah, that's a little bit more
It's quite
difficult, but
demanding. But I know quite a few photographers who do shoot colour and develop their own stuff. And I've been studying them carefully. See, the thing is that I didn't do film developing in secondary school or high school or uni or anything, so I'm missing out on that. I have to just watch YouTube. A good friend near Barraquet inspired everyone to create calendars using numbers found in the community, address numbers on doors, signs, etc.
That's really good.
Very cool idea.
We're going to touch on that, actually, on calendars and books and knowing your community.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. I remember someone took a picture of every meal he ate. If you are a bit of a culinary master, then I can understand that. But if your meal is like beans on toast every day, then maybe that would be a little unexciting. Who knows? I think you'd have to change it up a bit.
Well, no, that's a challenge, actually. You can be creative with those things.
Yeah.
And how to make it look different every time you shoot.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn a lot shooting that.
That is interesting. So sticking to a project, setting yourself a little target and going, I am going to do this, and having the self-discipline to actually follow through on it is sometimes enough to give us a little kickstart, I would say.
Do you think it's like doing a diet?
Yeah. Well,
let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. But yeah, it could be a little bit like doing a diet. It can also be like, I mean, there are some things that you do out of necessity and some things that you do.
Yeah.
Because there's a squirrel. Where's that 24 to 200?
It's my eyes.
I can't believe it.
And I'm not giving it back.
So Sam says, I don't have much creativity. Lockdown has been awful. Haven't really bothered with the camera at all. See, this is the thing. I understand, Sam, because, you know, a lot of us who generally shoot things, like, for example, Sam also shoots gigs. I was shooting a lot of classical concerts. I now don't really have the opportunity to do that at the moment. Most players are having to stick to small rehearsals. They're not doing venues. We're not doing concerts, etc. So there is a Nikon ambassador in the US, Joey Tyrrell. Is that how you pronounce it? Or Tyrell? I'm not sure. He posted some interesting videos. He's a product and model photographer and nature photographer, and sports, I think. And he decided to do a project of finding things around his house and lighting them differently.
Here we go.
If you have a look at his YouTube channel, he does super duper close macro. So he'll do like 12 times magnification on a kitchen sieve and light it with coloured gels and stuff like that. And it takes on a completely different sort of form when you do things like that. So you have to think outside the box a bit.
You don't need to do the same thing. Let's
No.
say, you know, if you're doing portraiture, you don't need to shoot portraits. You can maybe go and do macro.
Yeah.
Some still life photography. You can do self-portraiture. And we're not talking selfies. We're talking a self-portraiture.
An actual self-portrait.
Exactly. So it's more about reflection, not just on your photography, but yourself as well. And I think you should use the strange time we live in now, to reflect on yourself. And I think it's just going to open up a lot of doors, not just in terms of creativity, but in terms of you understanding the craft of photography as well. Yeah,
exactly. It's an opportunity to learn as well as, trying to not go completely mad, which is also important. Nick's lockdown project was photographing local pylons. A bit odd, but also a challenge. See, I have a thing about like funky doors. I like taking pictures of doors. So pretty much everywhere I go, whatever city I go to, I will always find an unusual door to take a picture of. That's just
no comment.
No, exactly. Andy said also Polaroid had a kit with some of their offerings which challenged users. I've lost it. Challenged users with a set of objects, patterns, etc. to inspire them. Yeah, you know, like even those little gimmicks. Like I got a lens ball last Christmas. I probably used it all of about 3 times, but it's quite interesting to do a series of photographs with something like that, with a prop. It just makes things a little bit more interesting.
It's a fun thing. It's not about, let's say, it's not going to be maybe your best photograph, but it's just a fun thing to have and learn from.
Exactly. Now, Mark says, I've been looking at bird photography out of home office window, also astrophotography, since this is done at night and there's no one around.
Here we go.
Exactly. John has a village project to take pictures of cobbles. Wow, 1 meter square for photogrammetry. Am I reading that correctly? That's thousands of images. Goodness me. Taking pictures of your camera equipment.
I want to see them all. All 1,000 of them.
All 1,000. So Taddy is saying pictures of your camera equipment. You could even take inspiration from someone like Tony Hurst and make them look super sexy.
Exactly. And then you're going to learn a lot from them again, from setting up the light. And that's something you can do at home.
Yeah.
even, you can use standard flashlight. You can use, let's say, screen light from your iPad and things like this to light the objects.
Yeah, we did. If you missed our earlier lockdown live streams, I know that they're a little bit more basic because it was like webcam in my home office against a green screen. But I did do a lot of streams on the subject of home lighting techniques and learning different types of lighting. So do check those out. If you haven't had a chance to, you might find them quite useful. Right, so lots of people giving project ideas. It's fantastic.
We don't need to discuss
We don't need
it.
to
We just read the comments,
read the comments and never mind our list of things.
Yeah, but that's perfect. That's
Yeah,
perfect. We want you guys to be
exactly.
engaged and give us more things to talk about, really.
Exactly. I like Jim's idea of doing dozen shots of tree bark for use as screensavers. I have also an obsession with trees and taking pictures of various trees, going to arboretums and Kew Gardens and finding the oldest trees.
That's
and
cool.
trying to take pictures of those. They can be quite challenging as well.
And you can do it on your way home.
And you can do it on your way home, exactly. So you were mentioning to me earlier that someone had done a door-to-door project.
There's one photographer during the lockdown. He basically, what he did is he put flyer through the door saying, on this day next week, I will be photographing this street. And if you would like, you can open the door for me, come out to the porch, I'll take a quick portrait of you, and I move on to another house. And it was a good project because obviously it's a lockdown. So a lot of photographers lost their, let's say, common jobs, photography jobs. But it was a good way to meet the people you live near with, your neighbors. To make those people living in lockdown, again, isolated, to happy and just, document this moment in life, really. So, and also he was charging them like something like £10, something, for the shot if they would like it.
Just like a little nominal fee.
Exactly.
For his
I think he did as well as a complimentary thing as well. So he kind of would give them shots.
Yeah.
And then if they would like it, they would just basically send him £10 or something like this.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Like, it's a bit like, a street artist or something like that.
Absolutely.
Similar thing. I mean, the money isn't even part of it, but also networking. It's quite a good way to network. If you say you're doing a project, I had a lovely chap who is, I would consider him a friend as well as a client, but he did a project where he was photographing or trying to photograph all of the centennials, all the 100-year-olds in England.
Wow.
And he went round to different parts of the UK. This was obviously pre lockdown and everything. Was about 2 years ago, and it was just so interesting to see some of the results of different people in their home environments or wherever they were, all posing, and that each and every one of them was 100 years old. So you can do things like that. Also, people, although they may not like to have their picture taken, if you just talk to them, you'd be amazed at how many people are actually willing to have their picture taken. And if you take a few shots, you will find that maybe the first one is a bit, this is always what I'm like when someone takes my picture, but then by maybe the third or fourth or fifth shot, you've actually managed to ease them up, crack a joke, or build some rapport, that kind of thing. You're a person photographer, I'm not.
But it's not just about photography, as you say. It's about meeting people.
Exactly.
It's
in whatever way we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a very nice thing you could do. I also know a photographer who is a pro portrait photographer, and she's been doing. I know this is your favourite thing, webcam portraiture. Now, believe it or not, on Instagram, it's actually taken off. So Constantine is too good for webcam portraiture, but it's very interesting because you can get someone in their home environment, and if again they're at home and they're literally just looking at the webcam. She had requirements. Obviously, it was like it had to be a high def webcam.
Yeah, it has to be D850 as a webcam.
It had to be a D850. Yeah. No, but it was
pro photo lighting.
But she was quite literally taking a picture of someone on her screen and then editing it so it didn't look like it was on her screen, and it was a really interesting project. And she had some stunning, models, really varied guys and girls, and they would go and do their own costume changes, and then she would just direct them and stuff. So you could also do something like that if you are shielding, for example, and you can't get out to photograph people. Then maybe have a look at doing some family portraits that are through other means, like a webcam.
Absolutely. Just think about it as in 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're all back to normal, and you're going to look at those photographs, and it will not just, you won't just see the people there, but it's the time we lived in. as well. It doesn't feel like now, but hopefully in the future we're gonna see all that.
Yeah, exactly. And it will also be interesting to look back on. I mean, my parents are over in the US, and they always ask for pictures of what it looks like in London, because it's so different from one place to another. So, you know, for posterity, but also to share with people around the world, I think it is very interesting and important that we share. Thank you, David, for the tip on the colour development. I'll have to save that for later, so I don't forget that. And then wish me luck.
We're going to have a stream on colour printing.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So Jason has a similar problem. From his terrace, he can just see the sea and beach and swimsuits.
Oh, that's such a good problem to have, isn't it?
Years ago, made a few dozen shots. Oh, yeah, sorry, I got that one. My friend takes pictures of his dog, Aggie, in different settings. Dog photography is my favourite.
Yeah, just have an Instagram account. You're going to get millions of subscribers.
You will for that. So Michael has been photographing different rocks and minerals, pebbles, right? Exactly. You could get like unusual ones and just make a whole project from that.
Absolutely.
Looking at abstract patterns in nature. That's Steve. Thank you to Gary for the contribution to the Coffee Fund. That's very much appreciated. Sorry, just to finish on Steve's, he's doing veins of leaves, bark, ripples in sand, etc. I think that could work really nice as a kind of like collage or a montage of some form, printed if you did that. Abstracts can be great. Nilo did all the London River Thames bridges. Ooh,
sounds good. That's fun project.
That sounds fun. Yeah, we don't get close to unknown people, it's quite right, but that's the thing. If you are happy, at least, or able to venture just past your front door, like I'm quite close with our immediate neighbours and some further down, but I think that a lot of communities aren't like that. Certainly where we lived before in London, I mean, wouldn't talk to our neighbours very often, unless they picked up an Amazon package from me or something like that. But it's quite a nice way to meet people, and also then you establish yourself as a photographer, so you might find that actually when things have eased up a little bit, that they might say, oh, would you like to do this job that's photography related? So it's also a networking thing as well, depending on how you want to pitch it. So Nick Can says, use my old film FM2 alongside digital cameras for day and night time. Lighthouses at day and night time. That's a very cool project. Andy says try local museums. Yeah, for us, like quite a lot of stuff is closed, and that's probably the case in a few areas. But if you can do, my favourite museum is probably the Natural History Museum, and I've photographed it in many different times of year and with different cameras.
How many fossils?
I have lots of pictures of the archways, actually. That's like my obsession is the architecture in there. So... Zoo, there you go. Rob's got the zoo in New York.
I've never been to New York Zoo.
No?
Is it as good as London?
I've no idea. I've never been to New York. I'd love to go to New York. It's on my bucket list. John has seasonal changes. Yes, so for example, you could also do the same view throughout the seasons. Like, for example, an avenue of trees. We had an avenue of plane trees near where we used to live in London, and I used to just every season I'd go and just take the same picture.
I just had another building in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. But also changing landscape is quite an interesting project to do, particularly in areas where there's constant development, like London, because the skyline is changing.
Yeah.
So
come back to the same place, shoot the same framing with the same lens, and just see how it changes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Baxter says there's nothing wrong with leaving your camera alone if you're struggling. When you stop thinking about it, inspiration will strike.
Just don't do it outside.
Yeah, don't leave your camera unsupervised in the middle of a park or something. But no, that's quite right, Baxter. The same goes, I think, for any art form, painting, writing. Sometimes you can't force it, so...
Sometimes you need to recharge your batteries.
Exactly, and it's very important. Nick, yes, I remember Nick's project. A few years ago, photographed every labyrinth artwork. So there's 270, one in each train station. And I didn't really pay attention to them until Nick started doing that project. Because it was on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that those were a thing.
And you need to do your research for this, which is another fun thing to do.
Exactly. So fashion catwalk, goodness me, in Natural History Museum. National History or Natural History Museum? One or the other. Rob recommends the Bronx Zoo in NYC.
Ooh, okay.
Baxter recommends to set yourself a theme. Go out with the intention of only shooting red objects, for example. That is a fab suggestion.
Colour. pattern
Yeah.
forms.
Yeah, exactly. You can pick those things. Thank you so much, David, for your contribution.
Thank you.
To the Coffee Fund.
We're going to have so much coffee today.
Yeah, we are. I'm going to be buzzing. I should have had it right before this stream. So that's another idea for you. Now, let's move on to different formats. Trying different formats. So I picked up not that long ago a Pentax 6.7, the very first version.
You mean Nikon 6.7?
Nikon, no.
I have a Nikon RZ6.7 and I tried Nikon 500C as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about, those are not Nikon cameras, but that's okay because Nikon didn't make a medium format camera. But yeah, so I picked up a Pentax 6.7 and a couple of lenses and was very kindly loaned another lens by a friend. It's a big, meaty camera. I mean, it's not the kind of thing that you just slip in the handbag and off you go and hope that you're going to catch a shot. You've got 10 shots per roll.
Yeah.
And each shot I've worked out costs about £3 by the time you bought the film and then developed it. But it's something different. And it makes you think differently about how you compose your pictures, what you want to shoot, because you've got not 36.
Yes.
I feel spoiled when I have 36 shots now. I'm like, wow, I've got 36 shots in this camera.
Question is it just as warm as vinyl? That's the question I have for you.
It is, I think so. So you could try, for example, that. You could also, rather than buying another camera, you could also try using crop factors in your camera. For example, I know a chap who is just shooting square black and white on his Z7 at the moment, and that's all he's doing. That's his project, is square black and white. And it's quite interesting because the Z7 has enough resolution and you can do enough with the files that you might even be able to pretend that it's something else, not film.
Well, it makes you think differently as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now you suddenly have to shoot square.
Yeah.
You have to look at the composition.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the lenses you choose.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of things you can do with it. Or if you don't like shoot square, shoot 5x4.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is again more of a medium format look.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Again, with those things, especially like let's say like if you shoot fashion as well, or if you print a lot, you don't want to shoot let's say with a let's say full frame proportions. You know,
I can understand that.
You do want to crop it a little bit, and again, it makes you think differently. So, it's a challenge, and that's what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you could, for example, just use the crop factor in your camera to sort of emulate those effects rather than going out and buying. I got mine at a bargain, but I've seen medium format cameras really expensive.
Yeah, they've gone up recently.
They have. I think it's lockdown that did that. Thank you very much, Nick, for your contribution to the Coffee Fund, and you're very welcome for the inspiration. It's our pleasure. So you could, for example, take a spin on that and just shoot black and white. You could pretend, like, not to mention another brand, but for example, Fuji have film simulations in their little cameras. I never got on with them, and I've told you, I've confessed a few times that I've used Fuji cameras.
What's Fuji?
But Nikon also have film simulations in their Z cameras, and all of the DSLRs have picture controls, so you can tweak things. You could, for example, emulate very high contrast Ilford film by bumping up the contrast and putting on a digital red filter. That's all through the menu. If you don't remember how to use picture controls, I did a live stream on it a while back. I might revisit that at some point soon as well.
Or stick it to Instagram and apply the filter on top.
Or you can stick it on Instagram if you want to, yeah.
Well, to be honest, like raw files nowadays, you can color grade them as much as you want.
Yeah.
There are a lot of profiles available that you can install into your software like Lightroom or Capture One.
Exactly.
So you can do that. So if you want a film look, well, go with it. We're not here to judge, really. So
I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah.
As long as you don't judge me, that's fine. Yeah, there's a few plugins like Silver Effects Pro is a great black and white.
There's a VSCO used to be.
VSCO cam. In fact, someone was using Silver Effects Pro, a plugin in Affinity, and sent me a shot and said, you know, this is just without any information, just said, what do you think of this shot? And I was like, wow, what film did you use for this? This is beautiful. It was amazingly high key. And he said, oh, well, it's actually with my D850. But it just goes to show that you can emulate those things if you don't have access to film, for example, or a film camera right now. So you could try a project of just shooting black and white, and you don't even have to buy a Leica to do that.
You meant Nikon. You
do have to buy a Nikon. You don't have to buy a Leica that just shoots black and white. And Andy was talking about Bronica and saying I don't have to shame it. It's true.
Well, that's the thing. Bronica, Mamiya, those can be had reasonably cheaply nowadays. I mean, they've gone up in price in the last couple of years, but
yeah,
let's say still cheaper than Hasselblad, and it's a good way to try it.
That's right. And Nikon, as Andy points out, did make lenses for a lot of these other brands as well.
You can go large format.
Yeah.
What's that brand that's reasonably cheap by 5x4? It's an English company.
It's called... Oh, that's so annoying. It's gone out of my head. I nearly bought one. I can't remember.
Anyway, it's about £300.
They sell them. Someone sells them. A film producer, but I can't remember. It's going to come to me, and then I'm going to shout it randomly a bit later. But anyway,
To be continued.
To be continued on that one. Photography has kept me occupied through lockdown walks with wife carrying D500 with 70 to 300 and a J5 with a 6.7 to 13. John is trying that taking trees in X-Pan. Nice.
Here we go.
Tadia says he's used 1:1 on his D850 more than enough pixels. Yep, I often shoot 1:1. I mean 1x1, like square format. I was almost arrested in an airport when I flew in to shoot an assignment with a Pentax 6.7. They thought it was a prop used to smuggle drugs. It's massive. I could imagine that you'd probably find... Anyway, let's not go there. I'm still waiting for a tutorial on anamorphic lenses. Okay.
Yeah, we are the right place
to
find this tutorial.
I'll do my best. Keep sharing your ideas. Oh, that's Fatini. There you go. Backyard challenge. Walk out the door, find something cool in my yard that I haven't noticed before. I do live in Northern Ontario, Canada, so I'm surrounded by nature. Well, that is very nice, Terry. And Slow Ride Photography Adventures. Trail Cam Terry and Slow Ride... Sorry, I just read the whole name there. If you live in the right place, I quite like the fact that I don't live in central London anymore, because you can walk out your door and find inspiration. But you can with street photography as well. Infrared film on buildings and trees. Yes, infrared is another route that you could go down. You can, I mean, I'm not saying necessarily that you need to get your camera converted to infrared, as I've talked about before. You can just pick up a cheap infrared filter. Go and check out our earlier stream on the subject of infrared photography and the sort of cheapest way to do that.
Yeah, this stream is not about the equipment. You can use anything you like.
Yeah.
And whatever works for you. That's the thing. You can buy medium format equipment, or you may just use your digital Nikon to achieve similar results.
Exactly.
And again, it's all about you going and just shooting and doing some work effectively. One thing I wanted to mention is a concept. If you think about, let's say, a project, everything is a story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you go for a walk. It's a story. You cooking a meal for dinner. It's a story.
Yeah.
You can easily shoot 5 to 10 images just to tell this story.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a close-up. It could be a person making, let's say, a dough for a bread. It could be the family sitting around the table. Think about it in a way that you're shooting a story. It's not just one picture. Let's say you can have a set of images. Think about who are in these images or what's in the images. You can try a macro photography. Let's say, again, we're talking about, let's say, prep a meal, let's say. You can do a macro shot of a dough. You can have a wide angle shot of your kitchen. You can have, let's say, a portrait of a person who's making it.
Yeah.
Things like this. And again, what you use, let's say, what techniques you use, what type of photography, let's say, you can do a portrait, you can go to macro. It doesn't matter. You can create a story. You can make a book after it, let's say, if you want to. A calendar.
As some people were mentioning, calendars is a great idea as well. I used to have a regular project of... Because I find that we also take a lot of pictures and we don't necessarily print them.
Yeah.
So now I have a project at home where every other year we buy one of those big frames which has 15 slots in it, and we fill it with the pictures of the kids in the family from the previous 2 years. So, it doesn't have all the snapshots. It has the nice posed pictures or the memories from when we went to a particular place or something like that, pictures of my grandparents, parents, and every 2 years we've got one of these big frames and they're just lined up the stairs now.
That's cool.
But, yeah.
I do what I call a yearbook.
Mm-hmm.
Where I combine all our images of me and my wife taken from cameras, Nikon cameras, iPhones, everything combined together into just a small book of, let's say, what we've done throughout the year, let's say, our trips, our friends, gatherings, etc., etc. So, again, it's one thing that you can spend time on.
Exactly. And, taking the pictures is one thing. You might find, actually, that now's not the time to take pictures for you, but perhaps going through the archives and finding some of those old gems and putting those into a photo book or a calendar. I mean, calendars are great for family members, particularly if you don't get to see each other all that often. But anything like that, it means that also you might get inspired by older shots that you've done that you want to then reshoot. So my husband has this very specific thing where we used to live. There used to be a little bridge in a river, and he used to have Zach, who's my oldest, when he was about 3. We did a shot there one year, and then the next year he wanted to do it again, and the next year. So now every year we have to go to the same spot and take a picture of the kids, and obviously now we've got 2, and they just grow.
It's like a time lapse with
It's
a year
like
gaps,
yeah,
effectively.
Exactly, and the kids are obviously getting taller and taller. I think Zach was probably... I think he was 3 when we did the first one. So now you kind of see the progression. You can...
Is he now taller than the bridge?
Yeah, he is. So you could potentially go through pictures and find a shot that you want to replicate. That we had... Did you have some pictures that you wanted to show based on
we
the
can
project?
share that. We can go to my website.
Yes, which one am I showing?
Which is konstantinkochkin.co.uk.
Let me do this.
Like and
Look,
subscribe.
It's us. Hold on. That's
but
crazy. There we go.
Let's just start with, I did this project which is called flash testing.
I've got the flash testing one open.
Oh, here we go. So basically, that was before COVID, but they were random people on the street, and it was shot with a very slow shutter speed, and I used flash to freeze the subject effectively. So I actually shake the camera around to create the circles around the light. And so
That's so interesting.
those are random
just tap
people
it like me.
that we've stopped on the street and just asked, can I photograph you?
Wow.
And for me, that's not just a technical project, it's also represent of, diversity of London, that's one of the things. The other thing I did, which is a random project, but it was kind of a homage to David Hockney's, and those are his paintings, and that's what I did based on that.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually lots of photographs basically combined to create one photograph.
Yeah, like a collage style. Wow,
Absolutely.
that's so interesting. That's really cool as well.
So that was in Japan, so that is in Russia.
Wow.
And this is in East London from a nice council flat.
There you go. But that's another project where you can put together multiple images to create a scene that kind of replicate another photographer or another artist's work, particularly if you admire them and you want to maybe study how they do things. And this is a great way to do that, is to emulate them.
Speaking of, speaking of people and photographing people, I photographed my grandparents, and I did it after 10 years living in England. And when I'm coming home once a year. When I go there, I really want to see my grandparents, and it's something that you don't care when you're a kid, but when you come back you start to appreciate the little things, from the environment where they live, let's say, to just their portraiture and how they aged. So that's done with medium format as well. And again, it was one thing that you challenge yourself with more than anything else. Yeah,
it's true, because it's also very personal to you, and in years to come you're going to appreciate the fact that you did that and took the time to take those photos, particularly these days.
That's the thing. Those things have to be personal to you. They don't, I don't really bother, let's say, if other people see it, but they matter to me, and I appreciate those things.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like them in their happy place.
One thing as well we didn't mention is recreate the portrait. So you got a photographer that you like, and let's say all we ask you, get one photograph that you want to recreate, and try to recreate it. And that was a good learning process for me. I learned how to do the light, and this one was just a gap collection from 2007. So he's not a famous photographer, but it was about just setting up the light. Learning how the subject is lit. And then the person doesn't really need to look the same or anything. It's just I went all the way.
Yeah. That's so cool though, because then you did exactly replicate the lighting there and everything.
It's like you can also get, let's say, a painting and try to do that as well. And so get a still life and represent that.
I did actually. I thought I'd better check the comments and make sure that everyone is tracking. There we go. If I can remember how to use the thing. There we go. Oh, look, yes. Few people talking about light metering and stuff like that. I will scroll up here. Luckily everyone could hear us. Just checking. I know a lady who is a portrait photographer, and during lockdown she basically took famous paintings and used her kids, dressing them up in props and stuff like that, to replicate famous paintings. So the one that really stuck in my mind was the girl with the pearl earring, because she did her daughter and she had her mocked up exactly the same. Obviously, she didn't have expensive costumes, but she managed to find matching colour tones and stuff like that, and a pearl earring.
Again, it's all about being creative.
Yeah, and just copied the exact lighting of each painting. So it doesn't even have to be replicating a famous photographer. You could do... it would be very interesting to see people reproduce sort of Renaissance paintings and things like that in photographic form.
I think Becky spoke in previous streams about Rembrandt lighting.
Yes, I did do one on Rembrandt. I did one on multiple different types of lighting, but Rembrandt is very interesting because of the little square of shadow that you get, and then the triangle of light on the cheek. So if you haven't seen that live stream, it's from probably about 3 or 4 months ago now, but might be interesting.
Feels like years.
It feels like, it does feel like last year. Birthdays, presents, cakes, people, places give a lot of shooting possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah, or either train your kid played on when they were 5 or 6. I frequently go through like old pictures of the kids, mainly because they grow up so fast. I know that sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but they really do. So they don't play with toys anymore. I look back at some of the old pictures and think like, wow, what happened? It's only... I blinked. Jean-Paul Gaudi is master of...
Yeah, joiner.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Becky, what Constantine was saying with multiple pictures is called jointer.
Yeah.
Is it jointer or joiner? Anyway, it's one or the other.
Potato.
Yeah. Anyway, but I really like that idea. I think that's...
It's so easy to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then, as Drazen says, lockdown times are also good to follow YouTube streams. Yes, and to learn more about post-processing. So if you're not really much of a photo editor, then there are a huge number of tutorials out there.
There's so much information available, and it's free.
And once you kind of find 1 or 2 presenters that you really like, it's quite easy to just follow on with them constantly, like us.
Time-lapse.
Time-lapse.
Really easy to do. All cameras can do time-lapse in camera nowadays. You don't need to add images in the post anymore. Just put it, pointing outside of the window. Do sunset, sunrise, put it in front of the flower. It's open up, it's closing down.
Yes.
Really, really easy to do.
Yeah.
And again, you will learn a lot with it.
You will. It's quite a test of patience as well, particularly when you set up a time lapse and you've left the camera for an hour and you come back and it's not gone well. I did do a stream on time lapse video because most Nikon cameras actually have the capability of putting the video together for you. So you don't even need to actually put a video together. There's no editing involved. Camera does it all for you. It's fantastic. You just need to set it up.
I want to do a simples joke. But...
don't do that. There you go. See, Sam says, actually watching YouTube live streams like this one have been great help in keeping sane-ish. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
We are wrong place to be saying.
We don't. It's not what's advertised on the box at all. But we do try and keep everyone entertained as much as possible. Try to replicate a Picasso or Cubist painting with multiple exposures or composite. I like that idea very much, David. So we've talked about recreating pictures, even if it's just, as Con said, copying the lighting. You don't even necessarily need to do the same subject, but studying, for example, Annie Leibovitz has a very particular signature style of lighting that you might want to copy, or Joe McNally, who is the speedlight king. He does some fantastic videos on YouTube.
He commented my portrait of Grey and he said it was very good.
Did he? Oh, there you go. It's your 5 minutes of fame right there. So, for example, Joe uses usually tremendous amounts of light to create stunning portraits, which is very different to other people who use very low-key lighting. So that's also worth having a look at. Nilo's going to upload into the share folders a couple of jointers, one actually from a shoot at the museum. I'm looking forward to that. So we talked about photo books, and just on mention on photo books, you said Blurb.
Blurb, include this in Lightroom. If you use Lightroom, it's really easy. Very
high quality as well. I've produced some books for people for that. If you want something a little bit more cheap and cheerful, then you can look at places like Snapfish. It's a Hewlett-Packard company, and they have an app. It's relatively inexpensive to put together a photo book with them. I've done quite a few for friends and family that way. Apple Books, I think, is still a thing.
Do they still exist?
I don't know, but if you've got photos, and I think think that maybe you can still order a photo book from Apple. Now, just to add to these things, you could try film if you haven't tried it before, but we've talked about film a lot, and I'm pretty sure that most of the regular
I still don't know what
viewers...
film is, but no.
He does.
I
It's just
do.
being silly.
I've done my own development,
That's
my
right.
printing.
It's actually one step up from me.
Done color printing as well.
Okay, now you're just showing off.
The RGB.
So one of these
Super
days
cool.
I will do that when I have some spare time. But in the meantime, you could try film if you haven't before. You could pick up a reasonably inexpensive film camera. Analog Wonderland are doing some great... If you don't really shoot film at all and you don't know where to start, Analog Wonderland have done some very short videos on where to start with film, like literally down to what format of film each type of film is. Also, Amateur Photographers, not last week's issue, but the one before, I think, was entirely a film issue. So that's also worth having a look at if you need some inspiration there. The other thing that you could do is try a different lens. Now, this isn't like a throw products in your face stream at all.
What you can do is throw money at it.
Yeah, that's not exactly what I wanted to say. But I will say, for example, during lockdown, now most of you know I'm mainly a macro photographer and also landscape, and I do obviously do concerts and weddings and things like that. But the one thing that I don't really shoot is telephoto. My longest telephoto is my little 200mm AIS.
F2.
Yeah, F4. Yeah, the F2. F4, and it's really not designed for fast-moving subjects at all. But I borrowed the 500 PF during lockdown, and if you watched any of my live streams, you know how much I love that lens. I found myself using it in ways that I didn't expect. I suddenly became a bird photographer, you know.
And now you're famous.
And now I'm famous, no. But I really did enjoy just having a different focal length and thinking differently about the way I shoot. I shoot everything in wide angle lenses.
And now you've seen birds.
And now I've seen some birds, and I've managed to identify them as well. With thanks to the regular viewers who've told me what I'm taking pictures of.
I know, pigeons.
Pigeons, robins.
Parrots.
Yeah, thank you. We have parakeets in London, not so much in other parts of the world. So trying a different lens can sometimes just give you a little bit of a new perspective. Yeah. I did a stream on using lenses differently for different purposes.
Yeah. Let's say you can use, if you're into portraiture, why won't you try to shoot with a wide angle lens?
Yeah.
Just for fun of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, see what happens.
And then you kind of can have an environmental portraiture style thing as opposed to just head and shoulders shot.
Try to shoot from different angle.
Yeah, exactly. Try changing things up a little bit.
When was it? It was about a couple of years ago where we were testing a brand new 35 1.8G AFS lens.
Yes.
And we were given this lens by Nikon and said, go shoot something.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to find the page.
And that what happened.
Then what happened? Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute once I've flipped over. Here we go.
Here we go. So I didn't look through the viewfinder. It was D750 with 35 1.8G. And I was just basically not even shooting from the hip. I had it in my hand. And I was just pointing randomly at people. Used great depth of field.
Yeah.
For that, to make sure everything's sharp.
Like F16 or something.
Yeah.
These are great, though. I love the angles. I think that the fact that you shot them not even from the hip, just holding the camera in your hands, meant that you got people that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily get, Like you could imagine that they would be a bit more forced, or they might look a bit wary. I do find that if you hold your camera up to your face in the street, then people give you strange looks because they don't want their picture taken.
I agree. And then again, it's obviously not every single picture look like that, but those are the best ones. And again, it just gives different perspective.
I think this is a great set of shots. And just having that different angle also, it just gives you a different view of, what was this, Oxford Street? Because it was outside the Nikon school. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. So that's another.
That was the last one, was a Martin Parr reference.
Was it?
Yeah, so it's kind of
edgy.
Lots of colours and
edgy. I mean, I, for example, just shoot in primes. Sometimes having a zoom can actually, I find the zooms just make everything too easy. But if you're a zoom shooter, then maybe by shooting a prime only, you might challenge yourself a little bit more.
I have a Z24-200 on loan now, and
How many times are you going to mention that?
Yeah, I'm just showing off here, but it kind of makes me lazy. It's so good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just having a little look here. Sam said, did go for a walk with the 50 instead of the regular 24-120. It does help you to think differently. Found a reflex 500 f8, bought it on the spot. That is a fantastic experimental lens. As you said, Norm, because of the donut bokeh.
Yeah, try to get that. It's really cool.
It's very, very cool. Now, time-lapse, for instance, Nikon out of the box, Nikon app, or $50 remote timer. Yes, you can do time-lapse in various different ways. Do you need permission to shoot people in the street? I think only if you're planning to sell the pictures or use them commercially. These are just for you to see.
There's a thing as well, it's called the public place, so you can photograph in public places, but it's kind of a grey area as well. Obviously, some people can get offended by that. So, but that's kind of another hour of stream.
Yeah, exactly. Norm says you could spend a week figuring out how to use SnapBridge, or if you update the app and you've got the latest firmware, it will work in about 30 seconds. I promise you, I've done it.
If it works.
If it works. No, it does. I use it all the time, and I've never had a problem with it. Maybe I'm blessed in that way. So, I mean, there is lenses. There is also just, I mean, changing your equipment. I do find that sometimes if you've used the same stuff over and over again, then maybe you stagnate a little bit. But I think most people here know what the kind of sweet spot of their equipment is, and if you're looking at upgrading, you can certainly have a look at the different specs and see if a new camera is going to give you anything that you don't already have. Most modern day cameras will perform very similarly in most situations, to be honest. Like whether you have a D780 or a D850 or a Z6 or a Z7 or a Z5 or even a DX like a D500, 7000 series, Z50, all the cameras that I've basically talked about over the last few weeks. If you
I've done some great shots with D200. Yeah,
exactly. It doesn't matter what kit you use, but I do know people who will intentionally take a step back and use something with lower resolution or a DX camera instead of an FX camera, just to change up what they're doing.
If it gets stale, change it up.
Yeah, exactly. Jim is saying you can't... Oh, my battery's running low. You can't shoot people, especially the police or public officials in Spain.
Here we go.
So there you go.
There's a lot of things that, that like we can't discuss in 5 minutes.
Exactly. But if you're not using the images commercially, certainly in the UK, in open public spaces, you're allowed to take pictures. Obviously, if someone stops you and asks you what you're taking pictures of, then you just show them that you're taking pictures of the street.
Or run.
Don't do that. Yeah. Don't take advice from Constantine. Go with vintage lenses, no VR handheld manual focus. Yes, that will absolutely help you engage. I think I left the charger by my desk. It's always good, isn't it? We're nearly done anyway. If I stop being lazy, I want to do a series on fountains in New York City. That would be quite fantastic. But you see, projects which maybe you might find not that exciting. For example, I very rarely used to take pictures in London. I was born and raised in London and never took pictures in London. And then I moved out of town and I came back and I found myself taking pictures of all the tourist attractions and going down to Fleet Street and taking pictures of all the little side roads and stuff like that, because it was quite fun to pretend to be a tourist, and because people appreciate, not in that sense.
It was quite fun. It was quite fun to pretend to be a photographer.
It was quite fun pretending to be a photographer. But it was also just useful. Is that working? Yes, it is now. I'm charged. Charging.
Go back to normal. We can do another hour.
I don't know if I could do another hour. I need to turn off notifications.
You're stuck with me, folks.
But it just looking at my sort of hometown, if you like, from a different perspective and thinking, what would people from outside of London, rather than the stereotypical, like, here's Big Ben and here's, the London Eye and stuff. I went to all the kind of old historical places. I went to the old cheese shop, I think it is called, which is like an 1600s place that sells cheese anyway, and things like odd things that people don't usually think of.
I had the tea with the Queen.
You had tea with the Queen and then took pictures. No, you didn't. But, rather than the usual touristy shots, maybe have a look at doing things that are a little bit differently in your hometown.
If you guys, let's say, moved from your place where you lived as a kid, just, when you go back, let's say, and see your folks, I'm sure that, the place looked different, and just take photographs of those things, because those things could be, could look, let's say, very banal when you're there.
Yeah.
But once you come back, you start to appreciate those things because you don't have them anymore.
I agree. And certainly, like, for example, Nikon School, I used to quite enjoy those ventures to I don't go to Oxford Circus very often. I can't stand it. But going for Nikon School and being able to do street photography there, under the fact that we had to take pictures, so it was like, I'm with the school, I can take pictures kind of thing. I really actually treasure those pictures because they are something that I don't normally get to do. John says take an image of an old Nikon shop like Grace. Yes, you could do that. I see it every day, so I wouldn't necessarily take a picture of it, but there you go. Old pubs. Yeah, exactly. Particularly in the UK, we've got old pubs going back
so much history.
A long time. And old hotels as well.
Have a pint while you're there.
And have a pint while you're there, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much rounded off. Was there anything else that you had? We talked about videos and time-lapse. I will say that video is another thing that you can branch into.
Try to do a simple video. Again, everything is a story. Sharpening the pen. I'm just brainstorming here, but again, it's the way you shoot it. You need to think, okay, well, I'm not just going to shoot one kind of, frame one composition. I'm going to do a close-up. I'm going to do wide shot. I'm going to have some sort of, consistency in a way and a continuity.
Yeah.
It makes you think. It makes you try to be creative. It's a good learning process. I think in conclusion, kind of our point is, if you do something, and if you do something different from what you normally do, you'll enjoy it eventually.
Exactly.
So, and of course, if you need to recharge your batteries, you can also do
then
that.
Do that. Take a break and come back with it. Come back to it with fresh eyes. Exactly. James says, explore your country, not your home area. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could, if you can. That's the key thing. If you can get out and about, then finding new areas is also wonderful. But, I mean, there are people from all over the world here, and I bet if someone uploaded a picture to the Drive folder from, for example, New York City, as Rob was saying, or, even Ontario, someone else was from, or Australia, Andy, those viewpoints and perspectives are different to what we see every day, so we would find those interesting, whereas for you it might not be that interesting. I am so glad that you could join us today. Thank you very, very much for all of your wonderful engagement and feedback and ideas. As Fatini mentioned earlier in the comment, we will do a little pick and choose of some of the really great ideas, and we'll put it together in sort of ebook format, so that if you need a flash of inspiration, you've got quick access. Maybe we'll upload it to the Drive folder or something like that. No. Which is all contributions from you and from us put together. So I think that's a great idea.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very, very much for your contributions to the Coffee Fund. They are always greatly appreciated.
I think we've got a sandwich in there as well.
There might be a cheesecake even. And we will see you for another stream next Friday at roughly 2:15 p.m. as long as we can be on time. But thank you very much and have a great week.
All the best. Bye.
Bye. There we go.